Hello, today we are going to talk about chapter 5, which is organizational patterns. And this is not a long chapter, but it can be a little confusing. So pay attention, but we are going to do an activity afterwards so that you can kind of get some practice in understanding organizational patterns. Whenever you organize your speech, it's very important because it's going to affect the way your audience follows and understands your speech. Now, when I'm talking about organizational pattern, I'm talking about how you decide to put what point where inside the middle, inside the body of your speech. I'm not talking about the outline that I've already taught you. So the outline stays the same. It's always attention getter, justification, credibility, thesis, preview of points. That's the introduction, always the same. Main body, signpost, state, support, and summary. Signpost, state, support, and summary. Signpost, state, support, and summary. Every time that's main body. But the organizational pattern tells us, how do I know what point to put as my first point and what point to put as my second point? So let's talk about the informative patterns. First of all, we have topical. So topical is when your topic naturally divides itself into categories. So you might use the most interesting or the most important topics of a specific idea. You might use the most relevant. You might use the main aspects of something. So the example that your book gives you is today we will discuss communicating for a good first impression, professionalism in the workplace, and tips for proper business writing. So that topic is how to communicate in the workforce, right? And so those would be three different ideas or topics inside of that main topic, okay? Topical is typically the one that my students use the most because they think it's the easiest. And I guess in a lot of ways it is, but this is an informative pattern. So it's a way that you can organize your informative speech. Cause and effect is an informative pattern. It describes a topic that results in an outcome. The speaker reveals information about an event that's happened and what event occurred from that specific event, or what effect occurred from that specific event. So your example is, today we'll discuss the brand company's corporate restructuring and their declining employee satisfaction ratings. So here's the cause, here's the effect. It's still informative because you're not telling us or trying to persuade us to do something or change something. You're saying this occurred and then this was the effect of that. All right, chronological. Chronological is divided by time, so past, present, future. Any kind of how-to speech when you have to do steps in order, that's a chronological organizational pattern. So the example is, today we will discuss the brand company's initial spring survey on employee satisfaction, the development conference held this summer, and the communication training to be held this fall. So it is going to be separated in time-wise, right? So if you're going to give an informative speech about, your favorite artist, so you might say, I'm giving an informative speech about their early years, their rise to fame, and where they are now, right? So that would be chronological. Let's talk about spatial. Spatial typically is a harder one for my students to understand. It prevents information based on location. So when we're talking about things, how they're related to one another in physical space, in location, that is spatial. The example you have is, today we'll discuss the brand company's new communication wing with its first floor collaboration rooms and second floor training labs. So you're organizing it based on space. Based on where it actually is. And so that's going to be spatial. My students do not typically use spatial very often, but it is an effective pattern, especially if you're talking about something like that where you need to know locations. Okay, let's move over and talk about persuasive patterns. So persuasive pattern, first of all, we have problem solution. So you would discuss the problem that's occurring and then convincing the audience that you have the best solution. So the persuasive part is getting them to agree and or to take potential action. So problem solution is a great persuasive pattern. There's other types of problem solution. I have problem cause solution down here. That's another type of problem solution. But in problem cause solution, you reveal the problem exists and the solution to the problem, but also you talk about the reason why the problem occurred in the first place. Another type of problem solution that I don't have listed is problem solution benefit. So what's the problem? What's the solution that you are proposing? And then what are the benefits if someone were to utilize your solution? And that is a great way to set up a persuasive speech, because you're telling us, here's the problem, here's how I would solve it, and here's how all the great things that will happen once you choose my solution. Comparative advantage gives your listeners a side-by-side comparison of different products, processes, or potential outcomes. It can focus on similarities and differences of the options, and it's helpful to use when the audience knows information already about the other side that you're talking about. Comparative advantage can sometimes be called pro-con, right? So why would it be good? Why would it be bad? And then here's what I'm talking about. But in comparative advantage, you're taking this thing versus this thing and you're comparing them. How is this thing good and how is this thing better or worse? So comparative advantage is always comparing things or looking at the good versus the bad. All right, let's talk about Monroe's motivated sequence. It's one of my favorite organizational patterns, but my students, I think, are kind of scared of it. It was developed by Alan Monroe from Purdue in the 1930s, and it's a 5-step process. So number 1, you get our attention. You call our attention to the issue. We may already know about the issue, we may not, but you need to call our attention to it. Number 2, you tell us there's a need. You say, hey, look, audience, there is a need. I don't know if you knew about it, but this is what we have. So you convince your audience that something must happen in order to solve the issue at hand. Number 3 is satisfaction. You introduce the solution. So you show them how you can satisfy the problem with your solution. So that's why it's called satisfaction. Number 4 is visualization. You help the audience see how they are part of the solution or what will happen if they don't solve the problem. Okay, so you take it a step further than problem solution benefit. In Monroe's motivated sequence, you say, okay, here's all the great things that will happen if you use my solution. But if you don't, here's all the negative things that will continue to happen if you don't decide to implement the solution that I've given you. So you give them the good things and the bad things, and that helps them visualize what their life will be like if it's solved and what their life will be like if it's not solved. And then step number 5, you call them to action. So you tell the audience what to do in order to solve the problem. This is an important part of all persuasive speeches, calling the audience to action. It's built into our conclusion, remember? So in our conclusion, we have review of points, restate thesis, call to action, and then memorable ending. So you're calling the audience to action. What can they do now in order to solve this problem? Or how can they implement the solution you gave them? So let me show you a little clip that uses Monroe's motivated sequence very thoroughly, okay? Let's see if it goes to the next slide. Here we go. Oh. All right, let's let it load. But pretty much, if you will pay attention to commercials, they will oftentimes use Monroe's motivated sequence. I wonder if it will work if I'm recording. Yeah, it will. Okay.
You want to keep warm when you're feeling chilled, but you don't want to raise your heating bill. Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves. The Snuggie keeps you totally warm and gives you the freedom to use your hands. So now, you can work the remote or read a book in total warmth and comfort. Use your laptop without being cold, or enjoy a snack while staying snugly warm. Snuggie is made of ultra-soft, thick, luxurious fleece with oversized sleeves so you can move your arms and use your hands and still be wrapped in warmth. Super large, one size fits all, so you can stay warm from head to toe. No more cold feet. And with Snuggie, you can get up and still stay warm. Perfect for men, women, and children too. The ultra-soft fleece keeps you totally warm, and the sleeves keep your hands free. So you can snuggle your baby in your arms or keep your pet close at hand. Perfect for chilly outdoor evenings, staying cozy and warm at sporting events. And it's ideal for those drafty dorm rooms. The Snuggie is machine washable, so you'll get years of warmth and comfort. Now you can use your remote, enjoy a snack, talk on the phone, do what you need to, and stay totally warm with the Snuggie. Similar products sell for up to $60, but call now and you'll get the Ultra Soft, Ultra Warm Snuggie for only $14.95. Available in royal blue, sage green, and burgundy. As an added bonus, you'll also receive our compact press and open book light. Just press and the book light instantly opens and turns on for extra light where you need it. A $15 value free. Yes, you get the Ultra Soft Fleece Snuggie and our press and open book light. A $75 value, both for only $14.95.
To order, call 1-800-819-0658. Remember, you'll get the Ultra Soft, Ultra Warm Snuggie and the compact press and open book light for just $14.95 plus processing and handling. Call 1-800-819-0658.
Okay, guys, that is Monroe's Motivated Sequence. They get our attention by showing us a screen that is all in black and white, or it's actually kind of blue, right? So this is getting our attention. They're showing us we have a problem. They're calling attention to that problem, right?
Your hands are trapped inside.
Okay, then they introduce the solution. It's the Snuggie. It's the blanket with sleeves. Now, in this commercial, they actually go into then visualization pretty quickly, and then they go back and tell you other things about it because it really kind of makes sense in a commercial setting. But they tell you all the things that you can use it for. How much better your life is now. You can answer the phone. You can change the remote. You can read a book. You can eat your popcorn because your blanket has sleeves, right? So look how easy it is, look how soft it is. Okay, then we go over here, we talk about all the ways that we can use it, and then we get to about right here, and they're like, if you don't use ours, you might use something that's way more expensive. Right? Ours is so much cheaper, that's why you should pick ours, and it has 3 colors, so remember, you need to pick ours. You'll also get this. Okay, so keep picking our solution. It's the best one. Then, of course, there's a call to action at the very end, right? When we get to call right now. This is the call to action. They give you the number multiple times. They give you the website. That's the call to action. So that's Monroe's Motivated Sequence. Anytime you see a commercial like that, that is using Monroe's Motivated Sequence. So it's not hard and it's very persuasive. All right. Okay, so here's just a chart that's in your book of the different persuasive patterns. So problem solution, problem cause solution, comparative advantage, Monroe's Motivated Sequence. Remember, we also threw in problem solution benefit up there because that is a persuasive pattern you can use. But it shows how your main points, the preview of main points, would be different in each one of those. So problem solution would be, I'll show you how our company can avoid bankruptcy through management and leadership training and encouraging open lines of communication. Problem cause solution, we must discuss our impending bankruptcy, evaluate the breakdown on leadership, and encourage greater management training. Comparative advantage, to avoid bankruptcy, we need to look at ways to enhance leadership skills by employing an expensive third-party training company or seek out internal sources to improve our issues, which would be more cost-effective. And then finally, Monroe's Motivated Sequence, your preview of main points would sound like this. The issue of our possible bankruptcy proves that we need a strong, unified dedication to increasing our leadership training, aiming for 97% or above completion of management surveys, and what individuals can do to see these goals reached. So it's talking about the same idea, right? Like they picked the idea and it was about this company's bankruptcy, and then it shows you the different ways that you could talk about that bankruptcy depending on what persuasive organizational pattern you wanted to use. Okay? Sorry, I'm trying to sneeze. All right. So that is organizational patterns. They're very simple, but you have to think about them. Don't always assume that topical is going to be the best one because it's not. It's very rarely the best one. It can be used in formative, but it can't be used in persuasive. As you can see, these are the organizational patterns we use in persuasive. So what you're going to do today is you are going to take that organizational format assignment in front of you, and you are going to come up with a preview of points for each one of those topics. But that preview of points has to show what organizational pattern you're using, okay? This is going to take some critical thinking. I'm going to leave this slide up for you if you need it. And you can work in groups if you need to, okay? Go back to your book if you need help. And this is due today. So you've got to get it done and turned in before you leave today, okay?